One of our last meetings of PHANTEKS was stopping by the EVGA booth at the Grand Hyatt in Taipei. So let's check out some of their cool motherboards right after this.
Our PHANTEKS trip is brought to you by PHANTEKS, Cooler Master, and MSI.
Alright, so let's kick things off with the X299 Dark, which is meant to be EVGA's flagship, but it's also very narrowly targeted towards extreme overclockers. It actually uses what EVGA calls an optimized eATX form factor, which recesses certain onboard connectors with cut-out areas on the PCB. The end result is unique looking layout that is supposed to optimize cable routing. With that taken into account, you can actually see a lot in common between this board and the ASUS Apex series, including that unique PCB. There's a pair of 8-pin connectors to ensure the CPU gets sufficient power during extreme overclocking adventures, and a single bank of quad-channel memory that's been wired to the CPU socket with reinforced traces to promote extreme speeds. To back that up, there's a 14-phase digital VRM layout. EVGA expects this to be the best overclocking X299 board on the planet, and it shows. What you won't see with the Dark series is frivolous add-ons that overclockers and gamers won't use. For example, reinforced PCI slots, excessive RGB lighting, backplates, and the overuse of metal are completely pointless for a motherboard of this caliber in EVGA's eyes. Instead of spending money for those things, they've instead invested in key locations that actually lead to meaningful benefits for the end users. Overclockers receive a few other interesting things too. There's the usual onboard power, reset, and clear CMOS buttons, support for triple BIOSes, and an advanced 10-zone temperature monitoring design. One thing that caught our eye was actually the onboard voltage display, which will definitely come in handy for overclockers who are used to needing a multimeter to accurately log voltage. In terms of connectivity, the X299 Dark has everything an overclocker could possibly want and most of what gamers need. There's dual U.2 connectors, support for quad graphics cards, and 3 M.2 PCIe NVMe slots. 2 of those slots are actively cooled with onboard fan and heatsink design, while the other one is vertically mounted. Meanwhile, the board's bottom edge has a dedicated 6-pin power connector that's used to push additional current towards the PCIe slots. Basically, this board looks like an absolute beast, and it will surely be competing with the Rampage 6 Apex as the best overclocking motherboard around. Now, if you don't need the overclocking might of EVGA's Dark, then the X299 ftw-k might be a perfect fit. It actually has many of the Dark's basic features but eliminates the ones which are later focused on extreme speeds and replaces them with sensible mainstream items. For example, even though the color scheme remains very neutral, EVGA has added a cool LED lighting scheme. But despite those mainstream features, the ftw-k still targets enthusiasts with a large eATX form factor. In many ways, we think that this motherboard is ready to go head-to-head with the likes of ASUS's Rampage and Gigabyte's Gaming 9 series. It has an advanced 8-channel audio design and an ultra-efficient 14-phase digital VRM layout. It also supports memory speeds up to 4133 MHz and higher through the use of a new dedicated 4-layer T-routing DIMM design. Now, oddly, it does feel like the FTW falls behind a bit when compared to some other designs. Even though it has a Killer Networks E2500 chipset for Ethernet connection, there's no Intel LAN or Wi-Fi capabilities. Also, even though there are single rear connectors for the USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type A and Type C, there are no front panel hookups for those next generation formats. With that being said, in other areas, this motherboard has it all through. There are 6 SATA 6 gigabits per second headers, 2 U.2 connectors, and 3 M.2 slots for running RAID setups through Intel's VROC technology. EVGA has included an onboard CPU temperature monitor as well, so that's awesome. And now let's talk about the last motherboard that EVGA was showcasing in the booth. This one's actually quite unique. While many manufacturers are either sticking to an ATX or ultra-compact ITX form factors, the X299 Micro is actually one of a handful of Micro ATX X299 boards we've seen. Not many vendors will be supporting this form factor going forward, so it's great to see EVGA sticking in the game since M-ATX boards are still compact, but they support a ton more features than ITX does. Let's start off with the most important thing about this particular motherboard. It supports a dual card configuration at full 16x by 16x speeds. Now, there are only 4 DIMM slots and they support up to 64 gigabytes of memory in total, and EVGA has managed to cram a very capable 8-channel audio solution onto the board. There's also 6 SATA 6 gigabits per second ports, 2 M.2 slots of which one is vertical, and even a U.2 connector for good measure. Honestly, for the space savings, it is hard to recommend an ITX motherboard over this one, but we will have to see how many cases end up with only M.ATX configurations in the near future. So there you have it, all of EVGA's X299 motherboards that will be available at launch. What do you guys think? Would you buy one of these over a competing Asus, Gigabyte, ASRock, or MSI alternative? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm Ibar with Canucks. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Computex coverage, and we'll see you in the next one.